This episode is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online is your number one source for all of your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for football, basketball, baseball, boxing, golf, and more. Bet Online continues to be the fastest and the easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games that are available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts.
And this is, of course, the Power Rankings podcast, aka the Power Rankings show. That is Marcus Mosher. That's at Marcus_Mosher, who I don't know. Do people realize that you added to your brood? Would it be
What's
your brood? Is it brood? Isn't that what people say? Isn't that the old school way of saying added to your den? You added to your family, bro.
Oh, yeah, I had a son. There you go.
Wow, you sound really excited.
All right, listen, it happened during Cowboys Cardinals. I mean, I can't have two things go right my way in one day, so the world had to equal itself out.
Well, I've been out, man. I've been out of the game. I just looked up brood. It's a family of young animals. Something like
I'll be
that.
close enough.
Yeah, I've been gone, so I missed a lot. I missed Marcus having a child. I missed a lot of football. I missed the Dolphins scoring 470 points in a game. I missed the Cowboys putting out a stellar effort against the best team in the league and the Cardinals. I really missed a lot of football.
Really quick, we have some breaking news. Daniel Jones just got sacked again. Just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, right. Well, my trip was great. Thanks for asking.
There you go.
And yeah.
I mean, people care about power rankings. I don't know if they care about our life events.
Well, I'm just going to have to share one with you anyway. So we went on this tour, right, of Europe, and we were going through the Czech Republic, and our tour guide was Czech. His name was, well, we had two of them, Pavel and Miroslav. And Miroslav kept coming down the aisle of our bus with something called Slivovitz, which is this Czech like vodka. And bro, I mean, this thing would knock you on your butt so fast, and it tasted awful. Okay. And my brother, who was sitting next to me, he would have some with me, and he would look at me. He's like, do you want to do it? I mean, and by the way, it's 9:30 in the morning. Okay. And he's coming down the aisle with us. And my brother looks at me. He's like, Slivovitz is great. It's great to use in your radiator, in your car. It's a great morning
car.
Oh my gosh, man.
Yeah, I get it.
Dude, they're not playing around, and they love their potatoes. I swear, I kept thinking of remember Bubba in Forrest Gump?
Yeah, I mean, all the different stuff that you can do with shrimp.
Oh, dude, every night was a different way of potatoes. There had to be some Czech version of Bubba. I don't know, like
I don't want to get myself in trouble. We should start the power ranking show.
Yeah. But it's like like peeled potatoes, fried potatoes,
Sure.
Potato skins. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So anyway, I've been out, everybody. And so I missed a lot of football. It wasn't really easy to watch football over there. We kept up on the scores. My brother and I, my cousin, a big Cowboy fan. We had another guy who's probably listening to us in his truck right now, who sounds exactly like Sam Elliott. He wore a Roger Staubach jersey as we're like walking through Germany. I thought, wow, I wonder what people are going to think. They have no idea. I'm guessing who Roger Staubach is, but maybe not. But it was hard to catch up. But there were some things that really stuck out while I was gone. And so because I wasn't in, Marcus did the power rankings this week. So I didn't do it. I just get to comment on it. And see, I'm already surprised. I mean, I'm already surprised that you got the Bears last.
How could they not be?
Why not the Panthers?
Because the Bears are the Bears are in a bad spot right now. It's pretty bad. So yeah, we got the Bears at 32. That offense.
The Panthers are worse.
Okay, Panthers at 31. Does it really matter at this point? We've got the Panthers at 31. Let me go through the 8 here.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is my list. You can critique it after you're done.
You know what you need? You need some Slivovitz.
All right. We've got starting over the Bears at 32, the Panthers at 31, the Broncos at 30, The Las Vegas Raiders dropping 3 straight games at 29.
Yeah.
The New York Giants, who cannot block anybody, at 28. The Cincinnati Bengals, who can't throw, at 27. We've got the Jets
Yeah.
at 26, and then the Patriots at 25. Biggest disagreement there, Elliot?
It's hard, but I would say the Bengals are too low. I know they've had problems on offense and they haven't looked good, but they're better than these other teams are. The problem for New England and New York, regardless of what Chris Collinsworth thought on Sunday Night Football, is they have a problem at quarterback. I think the Patriots are about ready to dump on the Mac Jones experience. That's what I'm gathering. You talk about the Giants being able to block. What about the Raiders being able to pass protect? It's not much better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I realize the Broncos finally got a win and had a nice comeback, but I think that team is not in a good spot at all. I really don't have major disagreements, and maybe I shouldn't be placing the Bengals higher. But to me, the most disappointing team in this group is not the Bengals. It's the Giants. I mean, you can say what you want about Daniel Jones, but, I listened to Dallas radio the other day talking about Dak Prescott not having time to throw against the Patriots. I mean, look. Yeah, he had a couple of plays where he didn't have time. Daniel Jones, there's like no comparison. I mean, he literally didn't have any opportunity. And I know you've criticized him in the past for holding the ball a little long. I mean, can you criticize him at all for the Seattle game? I mean, what could he do?
I mean, the offensive line wasn't great. He still holds onto the ball an awfully long time. And I think it's partly just he doesn't see things coming. He doesn't step up, but it's just a really bad combination when you also have an offensive line that can't block.
I love what Troy Aikman said on the broadcast, though. And I don't think Troy Aikman's a great big quarterback defender or anything like that. I think he's probably a little hesitant to criticize them too much, but I wouldn't call him a big, like I said, defender. I loved what he said about the Giants receivers. He's like, look, it's great if you can run a 4-3 or a 4-4, but use it. Run hard on your routes. And he said, when I watch film of this team, these guys are not running through their routes. They're not using that speed and getting there. Give Daniel Jones a little bit of separation from the corner so he doesn't have to hold the ball.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Next group. These teams frustrate me.
Yeah.
Patriots are awful.
24. We've got the Arizona Cardinals. Welcome.
Love it.
Out of that bottom 8 tier.
Perfect
really
ranking.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Really hard. Minnesota Vikings at 23. They did get a nice bounce back win against the Panthers this week. We got the Colts at 22. They are 2-2 on the season. Washington at 2-2 on the year. The Titans at 2-2. The Falcons at 2-2. The Steelers at 2-2. And then at number 17, my Houston Texans at 2-2.
Yeah. So I don't agree with where you have Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh should be way lower than this.
Okay.
From what I've seen, they look bad. Now, I will tell you that I did not see the Cleveland game. I had to catch up on it when Pittsburgh beat Cleveland. That was a game that you had circled, on the schedule, but more so for the Browns. I think you thought it was a really key game. I know I'm going back a little bit here. Certainly not a good performance against the Texans. Kenny Pickett got hurt. I don't really like any of these teams, but I have to say, probably being a little unfair to the Commanders here. I think they've done a little bit better than you expected.
Sure.
And I think they kind of got knocked, and I'm guilty of this too, for week 1, having Arizona almost come in and beat them. But we didn't foresee Arizona playing as tough as they have since then. And so now Washington's narrow win doesn't look so bad.
No, of course not. These teams, I mean, honestly, from 22 to 17, by next week, we could have them all completely flipped. Put
them in a jar full of dice, roll the dice again, and they'll come out differently. Minnesota, obviously, is the headliner here, though. I don't think anyone thought they would be the 23rd best team in the league. I do think people thought Minnesota might miss the playoffs. It was possible because of the ascension of Detroit and some other things in the conference. So there were people that thought maybe Minnesota misses, but I think people thought Minnesota misses at 9-8. Minnesota could be headed for 7-10 or 6-11. And I think that's a surprise.
For me, the surprise is Houston here at number 17, because in our first power rankings of the year, you put Houston at 32, which I get. Like this was a team that was going to be, we all thought it was going to be really
31.
bad going into the year. First 2 games.
31. I'm just defending myself.
I think they were at 32. Who did you? I'm pretty sure you had them at 32.
I didn't. I had the Cardinals at 32, but I had I had the Texans at like 30.
All right, we'll have to fact check that.
Yeah.
Listen, Houston
Yeah.
this week against Pittsburgh was out without their left tackle, their left guard, their starting center, and then their right tackle. Their backup left tackle was also out in this game. The third string left tackle got hurt midway through their game. Their starting left guard in the game got hurt, and yet they scored 30 points and threw for over 300 yards. CJ Stroud averaged 10 yards per attempt. This Houston Texans team is just really, really well coached, and they've got a quarterback that I think can help them win a lot of games.
I'm down with that. I just want to point out real quick before we leave these teams, the Titans are ridiculously inconsistent. You can kind of expect that from the Colts, given who they're playing under center. But Atlanta's got a quarterback problem, and
Yeah.
this team could be a lot better if they had competent play there. It's too bad because I think Atlanta does have potential to give teams real matchup problems. But when you give teams matchup problems, you've got to capitalize on the throws that you get out of that. And if you make plays in the run game, you want to capitalize in the passing game when teams start loading up for the run. But if you can't do that, then it doesn't really help. I guess what I'm trying to say is matchup problems don't do anything for you if you can't make basic, throw basic posts or just basic routes. I mean, what's Atlanta's passing game ranked right now? And not only that, Kyle Pitts, use Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Jonnu Smith has more receptions and yards than Kyle Pitts does this year. That just shouldn't happen. Drake London, who
No.
had a fantastic year last year, basically non-existent in this passing offense. I know Arthur Smith's offense does work. It doesn't feature a lot of passes down the field, but you've got to find a way to be better on offense.
Right. No one understood the word salad I just gave, you got too much Slivovitz. I'm sorry. But basically the point is it doesn't matter if you beat teams on paper if you can't make basic plays that come available to you during the game.
Yes.
And they're not the sexy plays. They're the 8-yard routes that you hit the receiver in stride and he gets you 12. But that's how you win football games. And I think Atlanta actually has a little bit better team than people think they do. But there we go. Let's go to the next board.
Real quick before we go to the next group. Chicago, Washington, Thursday night football. How jazzed are you for that game?
I'm really, really pumped because I already know what's going to happen. We're going to record, and your first thing out of your mouth, first thing you're
breaking
say
news to me.
Football's so dumb.
Wow, this game is dumb. You should not watch that game.
It was a primetime game last year. Do you remember the game last year?
Yeah, Justin Fields did not play well.
Well, he didn't get any help from his receivers. Let's go. Next one.
All right. We got the Saints at 16, the Packers at 15 after that blowout loss to Detroit on Thursday Night Football. We've got the Rams at 14. I'm honestly kind of surprised they're this high. The Jacksonville Jaguars at 13, the Los Angeles Chargers, who I cannot figure out, at 12, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 11, Cleveland at number 10, and Seattle Seahawks at number 9.
Well, I think the Bucs win over the Saints was really impressive. You go into New Orleans, you get a division win. I think most people thought New Orleans was a little bit better than Tampa. I think the score was 26-7, 23-7. Pretty much handled them. And Baker Mayfield's a nice little story going so far. In terms of your ranking here, I think the surprise would be that the Rams are at 14, but you have to give them a lot of credit. They've got young players who are stepping in and playing really well. And then Matt Stafford has made a nice return.
That's the key. Stafford looks good, really, really good. And he's giving them a chance in every game. And as long as he stays healthy, they're supposed to get Cooper Kupp back either this week or next week. I just think with that coaching staff and with that quarterback, they're going to be in just about every contest.
Do you think Jacksonville is impressive at all, even though they got a win in London over Atlanta?
No.
When you go to the bathroom in Europe, you have to bring you have to pay €1 to use the bathroom. Now they give you a little voucher thing that then you get €1 off in their store. So if you want to buy cupcake, well, they didn't have cupcakes, but if you want to buy Pringles, you get a little €1 off in their store off the Pringles after paying to use their bathroom.
It's a good idea.
It's a good idea, but I feel that's what the London game is a little bit like. It's like we're paying essentially as fans to go to the bathroom when we watch some of these games. They're like that maybe more the Thursday night game than the London game.
Jacksonville, Buffalo this week.
I just don't like either one. Jacksonville, Buffalo, and London.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope it's all right. I've
You're
never
not going to
liked
be
the London
awake. What
game.
are we talking? There's no
I
way that
just
you're waking up for that game.
I just have never liked the London game, man.
Neither have I.
Okay, see? See? So quit trying to defend it. Hey, before we get out of this board, though, let's talk about these 12 through 9. Okay. So the Chargers finally got a big game from Khalil Mack. And everybody, it's crazy. Khalil Mack's had 2 games where he had literally 0 pressures and he had 6 sacks on
Mhm.
Sunday. I don't know how that happens. I mentioned Tampa at 11. I think a lot of people would be shocked to have Tampa over the Chargers, but they've earned it. By the way, sweet graphic here if you're watching along the creamsicle helmet. But 9 and 10. So I have 2 questions for you. Number 1, can the Browns win the AFC North without Nick Chubb?
Yes.
They can.
Yes.
But with Deshaun Watson's shoulder banged up, it's going to be tough because, as we noted many times last year, this defense can be so up and down.
I think it's why the Browns decided to rest him last week. They've got a bye here in week 5. Give him a couple weeks to get healthy, reset. And then I think a lot of it's because the Browns know that they're going to be putting a lot on Deshaun Watson's shoulder. That's a bad pun. Going forward without Nick Chubb, right? They're going to have him win a lot of these games. So, yeah, I think they can, partially because I don't think the AFC North is very good this year.
Yeah, you don't want Deshaun Watson to have to shoulder the burden. That's not what you want.
Man. So bad. I do,
Yeah.
the Browns defense is really good. I know they didn't necessarily show that against the Ravens. I think that defense alone can get them to 9 or 10 wins, and that might be enough to win the AFC North.
Yeah, you don't want to rotate. You don't want to rotate your team in first place
So bad.
every week in this division. Am I right?
I was going to make a joke about him. If he has to work on it too much, he might need a massage, but that's probably a bad way to go. So.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't need any stingers from you on this podcast. So, hey, number 9, Seattle, big game. Got close to the team sack record
Yeah.
against the Giants. They deserve a lot of credit. As bad as the Giants' offensive line played, the Seattle front made them look bad, and there's something to be said for that. Seattle also made hay in the run game. Is there any way Seattle doesn't make the playoffs? I mean, what 7 teams in the NFC are going to keep Seattle out? I can't come up with 7.
I don't see it. I think the defense is playing a lot better. They've got this first round pick at corner, Devin Witherspoon, who had a monster game. Jamal Adams actually came back. Now he left with a concussion, but you saw early in that game how much of an impact he makes. Last year, the Seahawks had to play their offense to basically cover up their defense. I don't think they have to do that anymore. I think they can actually play a complementary style of football. I would not be surprised at all if they get to 10 or 11 wins.
I still wonder a little bit about their passing game, but when I say I'm trying to come up with 7, and I know they have the players on that side of the ball, but I just the consistency of the Seattle passing game. But
Before we move on, do we want to do a really quick NFC playoff picture to see where we're at?
Well, let's try to find 7 teams that even have a chance of banging these guys
Do the
out.
divisions, right? We got the 49ers. Let's pick
Sure.
the Eagles in the East. Let's
Sure.
pick the Lions in the North, and in the
Yep.
South, let's pick the
All right,
Saints.
the Bucks are earning it.
Yeah, well, let's pick the Bucks. That's fine. So
Okay,
then let's
you
put
got 4.
and let's
Okay.
put the Cowboys and the Saints as
Sure.
wild card teams, right? Packers.
Maybe, but do we really think the Saints are going to keep Seattle out of the playoffs? I don't.
No, I don't either.
No way. And I know the Saints have a pretty easy schedule, easy-ish, but yeah, give me Seattle all day. By the way, that Seattle helmet looks absolutely amazing. Let's look at the top 8 teams.
Okay, here we go.
Ooh,
All right.
cookies and cream. Whoa, what is going on with the Kansas City Chiefs?
We'll get to them in a second. We've got the Baltimore Ravens at number 8. We've got the Detroit Lions at 7. We've got the Miami Dolphins at 6. We've got the Dallas Cowboys at 5. We've got the Kansas City Swifties at 4. The Buffalo Bills at 3. The Philadelphia Eagles at 2. And the San Francisco 49ers at 1.
Oh, at first, because I have this minimized on my screen, I thought that was Mr. Potato Head that you had as a graphic. I did. I didn't realize that was Taylor Swift. Oh, I swear because it's so small on my here, I should enlarge it. That was not a shot at Taylor Swift. Are you a Swiftie?
My sister is, but no, I'm not a Swiftie.
Yeah.
I've never got it. I've always thought Lady Gaga was more talented, but that's just me.
Ooh, hot sports. Well, not hot, non-sports opinion, fresh out of the oven from at Marcus_Mosher. Okay, so a couple things here, man. So again, Marcus has got Baltimore at 8, Detroit at 7, Miami at 6, Dallas at 5, Kansas City batting cleanup, Buffalo at 3, Philadelphia at 2, San Francisco at 1. I wouldn't have Kansas City in this group at all. I don't think.
You would
You've
have
got
them
them
in the
at
top
4.
8.
I don't think so. Not from what I've seen. Now, again, I was having Miroslav was refilling my little plastic cup quite a bit on that tour. I was buying little houses that you put candles on and stuff.
Yeah.
I wasn't watching a lot of football. I wasn't thinking about blocks. I could tell you that right now. But
That would be Brett
2
Favre
weeks ago,
speaking,
I
but
was
great.
waiting.
Yeah.
Okay. Detroit beat Kansas City week 1. Kansas City's now. I understand Detroit's not world beaters. Detroit lost to Seattle, but and you've got Detroit over Seattle. But Kansas City's offense, man, can't get out of neutral. I mean, you can't. Can you just keep relying on Patrick Mahomes to play schoolyard ball to get you out of a hole all the time?
I mean, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably a bad answer, but yeah, probably. I just trust that Andy Reid and Mahomes are eventually going to figure things out. What's actually more encouraging is that their defense is playing this well. Usually what we see from the Chiefs early in the year, the offense is fantastic and it's the defense that kind of lags behind. But Steve Spagnuolo usually gets that group playing well by the playoffs. They're already playing fantastic football. So if the offense can just get a little bit better, they're going to have a hard time losing a lot of these games.
I got to be honest. I am surprised at how well their secondary's played. They've got some really good corner play for them. So I thought you had Dallas at 6, Miami at 5. Maybe I was mistaken. I thought you told me that when we were just talking about the Cowboys. But okay. So just looking at the first 4 here: Baltimore at 8, Detroit 7, Miami 6, Dallas 5. I would have Miami over Dallas, but I would keep Dallas right there in the 5 hole.
Here's why I have Dallas over Miami. I think Miami's offense is better, but I think Dallas's defense is just light years better. And I think if Miami's offense has a bad game, I'm not sure that they can win, especially against good opponents. We know that the Cowboys defense is going to win them games single-handedly. They could have beat New England by basically punting on every first down, right? I think both of these teams are very similar. I would just lean Dallas a little bit more, especially when you look at the health of the offensive line, the health of the quarterback. Dak has just stayed healthier than what Tua has. So I'll put Dallas at 5.
Okay. I'll circle back to Dallas here in a second. Let's talk Baltimore, Detroit at 8 and 7, as in Baltimore's ranking and Detroit's ranking. I'm assuming part of this ranking for the Ravens is team health and nothing else. Yeah, it just seems unfortunate because it's happened to them and the Chargers, I think, more than any teams over the last.
It can't be a fluke at this point, right? If you're getting this many injuries every single year, the Ravens ruled out 17 players last week. I've never seen that 17 players be ruled out for a single game. We're only in week 4. I do like this Ravens team. This is some of the best play I've ever seen from Lamar Jackson. I just think the Lions are a little bit more well-rounded right now.
I like the Lions a lot, but why this high? Like I said, they got beat by Seattle a couple weeks ago. What is it?
The Thursday night game against the Packers in Green Bay, not only did they win and they blew them out, but they just had a certain level of physicality that Green Bay couldn't match. I mean, they just played this really physical style of football where they were just lining up and moving Green Bay off the line of scrimmage. I think that's going to really translate as we get later on in the season.
And that's fair. And that's one of the games I wasn't able to see because I was gone because that was week 3, right?
It was week 4. It was this.
No, Thursday. It was week 4. No, it was Thursday game. I was gone. Yeah. One thing on that, last year when Detroit went into Green Bay and won, they did it with a lot of play calls. You remember they had some really interesting play calls in the red zone at the end of that game. Moving them off the ball is a totally different way of winning. That's not how they won.
They just
last year up in Green Bay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Their trenches absolutely dominated that game.
Okay. Like I said, I want to circle back to Dallas, but let's go. We talked about Kansas City at 4. So Buffalo 3, Philadelphia 2, San Francisco 1. I would actually have San Francisco 1, Buffalo 2. And then at 3, I think I'd have Miami, not Philadelphia. So you've got Philadelphia awfully high here at 2 for a team that barely got past Washington, really struggled. I mean, they probably should have lost to New England. Is that a fair comment? And
sure.
And Buffalo, just ransacked Miami, destroyed Washington. They've really turned it around since losing to the Jets. Why are the Bills at 3 behind Philly?
I think the sign of a good team is if you can play a crappy game and still win and just
Mm-hmm.
fight and overcome and win these games. And that's what Philadelphia has done so far. I think they've played C plus football to date and they're 4-0. And it seems like every time they need to make a big play, it's AJ Brown making a big play down the field. It's Jalen Hurts using his legs. It's, Devontae Smith making a big catch over the middle. We haven't even seen their peak yet. They're 4-0. They have a couple division wins. I just can't put them any lower than this, especially after we saw Buffalo lose to Zach Wilson and the Jets in week 1.
Okay. So if we look at San Francisco at number 1, I have traditionally been higher on the 49ers than you have. What is it? What is it that you're seeing now that you're like, okay, unequivocally, this is the best team in the league?
Other than if the Cowboys happen to beat them next week, I can say that they beat the best team in the league. Other than that, where's their weakness? Like if you had to point to a weakness on their team, I know it's not Brock Purdy anymore. Like that used to be the argument against the 49ers. It's, hey, they have a shaky quarterback and it's, they're going to try to scheme around him. That's not the case. I think the only potential weakness they have is their cornerback room. And there's 28 other teams that would love to have their corners right now. That's how loaded this roster is.
Yeah, I was going to say their secondary. I would be careful on the loaded roster though, man, because we pointed it out in before the season even started. This team is a little bit thin. Like once you get past their frontline starters, that's where you can get this team because they did lose some guys. But there we got to bring the Swifties back. Circling back to Dallas, and I know on our picks podcast, we will talk about the Cowboys 49ers game. I just wanted to say here that the Cowboys had this huge blowout and they're getting all this media coverage right now. And all that media coverage should go towards the defense. All of it should.
Sure.
The Cowboys offense was okay, but I was hearing a lot of stuff about how the offense looked really good and how Dak played great. And look, man, I'm not being a hater. I mean, but there are times that you've got to feel pressure. And look at Houston's offensive line situation. You don't hear excuses being made. The red zone offense is still a problem for this team. And Brandon Cooks still isn't producing, whether that's the play calling, whether it's Dak, whether it's Brandon Cooks himself. He's not getting, as involved, I think, as they would like to see. I'm really encouraged by Ferguson, the tight end. But they're also, it would help to throw, I don't know, 2 deep balls per half.
Sure.
Just loosen up the defense a little bit, even if they're incomplete. Let Dak air it out. Let the defense know you're gonna have to play the whole field, and don't let them creep up and reduce Tony Pollard's effectiveness, and quit blaming the offensive line combo. It doesn't do you any good. I'm not saying that Dak didn't have some plays where he didn't have any time. This really isn't about Dak. It's about blaming the offensive line all the time. It reminds me of Mike McCarthy blaming the refs 2 years ago for a couple losses. Stop with that. If you get beat, you get beat. That's just the way it goes. If you don't score in the red zone, it's because you're ineffective. It's not your offensive line all the time. Okay.
Can you guys tell that Elliot's not the biggest Mike McCarthy fan? Just putting that out there.
I just get tired of the I'm sorry if I'm going off here, but look, maybe I had some slip-of-bits before this podcast. Here's the deal.
I think I'm going to need some.
All right. I want you, hey, what's that?
I might need a little bit after this show, but go ahead.
I want you to tell me if I'm being unfair. Okay. You follow the Cowboys so closely, and you have to admit they're the most talked about team in the league this week. Easily, hands down. Okay. Their defense is not just good. It's been phenomenal. Like absolutely championship caliber. You could win. You could put Jeff Hostetler with this defense and they'd win the Super Bowl right now, the way that defense is playing. However, this team they just strike me as a front running team a lot. They get more blowouts at home than any team I know of in the league. I bet you if we did research on it over the last 3 years, the Cowboys have blown out teams at home more often than any other team in the league has, including Kansas City. And then they have these absolute dud games, and there's always an excuse. And then they come back home, they win 43-3, and they're all jumping around and celebrating like they won the Super Bowl. And it's like, you know what? I'd kind of like it if I'm trying to remember which was it the Braves? No, maybe it was the Astros who clinched, and they just they just did a nice toast. They didn't spray each other with a bunch of champagne. Quit spraying yourselves with champagne when you just lost to the Cardinals a week and a half ago, and quit blaming the fact that you can't get your offensive line together. Enough already, okay? Enough already.
All right, that's it for the power rankings show today. We want to thank you guys for listening. These are my power rankings. On Wednesday, we're gonna have our picks show, so make sure
I
you
want
guys
you to
tune in
tell
for
me
that.
I'm wrong. I'm not letting you off
It's
the hook.
just I've never heard anybody complain about trying to blow out teams at home too much, but it's fine. It's not a big deal.
That'd be fine if then you go on the road and you play consistent
Yeah,
football.
but
But
if
here's
you win, if you blow out every team in the road or at home, and then you win every road game, you're going to be a pretty good team. I think. I think the math
okay.
says 17-0.
Okay, so tell me I'm wrong here then. The most disappointing thing for Cowboys fans, hands down, and I could see it happening, is they go out to San Francisco and they win 30-14. They dominate. Micah and DeMarcus Lawrence, who's having an all-pro season, and I'm not talking about Micah, I'm talking about DeMarcus Lawrence. Is that fair? Am I
Sure,
exaggerating? He's
sure.
been amazing. Of course, Mike has been amazing too, but Tank has been awesome. Everybody watch him. Okay. They go win at San Francisco 30-14. They dominate, and then they're going to lose in the playoffs to them. I mean, would that not just be the most Cowboys thing
It
ever?
is, but that's just the NFL, Elliot. Like last year, right? Remember when the Chiefs in week 2, or maybe it was I think it was week 2. They got this really big win over the Chargers on Thursday Night Football.
Yep.
And it was an awesome win. And then they go on the road and they lose to Matt Ryan and the Colts in a game where
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes
It
played
happens.
terribly. And then they played the Raiders the following week at home, and they beat the Raiders, and then they lost to the Bills the next week. Like that's just the NFL. It happens.
But when the Chiefs win, they don't celebrate like they've won the Super Bowl. They
I
just
mean,
don't. I'm
the
sorry. I
Swifties do.
know. I know. We have a lot of Cowboys fans that listen. They're probably all hating me right now. It gets a little old. I kind of just want a little bit more of a business-like approach from this team, and I don't see it, and
But
it bothers me.
more importantly, how do the Swifties celebrate a regular season win?
Yeah, I don't know, but I will say this though. I think the Cowboys have great players that are very good players at the skill positions, and I do think Dak played a pretty good game
Okay.
against the Patriots, and the offensive line. It would be nice to have all the starters in there. I'm really sick of Swifty talk too. If you want me to go off on that, I totally will. But I think you should be more worried about the Chiefs than you are. I'm just saying.
Yeah. They just
Yeah.
haven't given me a big enough reason to worry over the last couple of years.
As much as I just hammered Dallas, I think they belong over Kansas
Okay.
City on this rankings. I think a Dallas Miami Super Bowl would be fantastic, but
Yeah.
I have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to get San Francisco and Miami.
We get Dallas, Miami on Christmas Eve. How's that?
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, in the Sunday game, I mean, there's going to be some fun games this week, but I mean, I don't think anything is more fun than Bears Washington. I mean, just think of all the angles, you know.
How many shots of vodka are you going to need to get through that one?
I don't know. How excited is Al Michaels going to be calling that game?
Poor Al.
Yeah.
This would be a really good time to test out how far we've come with AI. Just to have AI
Yeah.
Al out there to see.
Can we have Chat GPT do the game?
It would be. I would watch it.
All right. We probably should get going, but let's just show all your list again.
All right.
You're never
We'll
doing
start
these
from the back.
again. Let's be
We got the
honest.
Bears at 32, Panthers at 31, the Denver Broncos at 30, Las Vegas
Disappointing.
Raiders at 29,
Really disappointing.
Giants at 28, the Bengals
Most
at 27.
disappointing.
Well, all these Jets at 26, the Patriots at 25. We've got
Jets
the
are too
Cardinals
low.
at 24, the Vikings at 23, the Colts at 22, the Commanders at 21, the Titans at 20, the Falcons at 19, the Steelers at 18, my Houston Texans at the 17 spot, Saints at 16, Packers at 15, Rams at 14, Jacksonville at 13. We've got the Los Angeles Chargers at 12, Tampa at 11, Cleveland at 10, Seattle at 9, Baltimore at 8, Detroit at 7, Miami at 6, Dallas at 5, the Swifties at 4, Buffalo at 3, Philly at 2, and San Francisco at the number 1 spot.
Pretty good. I've got a draft question for you.
Sure.
So back in, like March, when you were having one of your late night parties with some of your friends where you guys try to pretend like you are on like D&D nerds, but you kind of are for the draft. You just don't roll a 20-sided die. When y'all were having like a day 3 wide receiver, chat amongst yourselves. And I know you pull out the charcuterie board. You've told me you try to get fancy, except y'all end up drinking Capri Suns with it, which ruins the whole vibe.
Sparkling grape juice, but go ahead.
Where did you have Nakua?
Yeah, Nakua stuff. I had a 4th round grade on Nakua. Banged up a lot, but he was Utah's all-time leader in receptions and yards in high school. Went to Utah, had a transfer to BYU, had modest stats there. Was really good at the Senior Bowl. But yeah, just another one of these tough, good after the catch, makes a lot of catches, but doesn't have any special traits. I don't know how Sean McVay keeps doing this, but he found another gem.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you guys don't know who we're talking about, Nakua is a wide receiver for the Rams. And, the Rams aren't getting a lot of pub, but they've played pretty well. And aren't Nakua's numbers, he's got 500 something yards already?
Yeah, he's been ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact numbers.
I got the numbers right here. It's 39 catches for 501 yards and scored his first NFL touchdown last week.
And that's in 4 games. And then they're getting Cooper Kupp back, I think, this week. I mean, hey, who knows? I mean, maybe the Rams, what if the Rams snuck and got that? If the Rams got the 7th seed in the NFC, that might be Sean McVay's best coaching job yet. You could say what you want about his little white sneakers.
If you're like the 49ers, the last thing, and you get to end up being the number 2 seed in the NFC, the last thing you want to see is the Rams in round 1 of the playoffs.
Yeah, I saw Nakua, like, when they got a game ball, he kind of bull rushed McVay and tackled him. And McVay, was really excited, but you could tell there was a part of McVay like, yo, don't mess up my hair. Like, this shirt is starched.
$300 on this haircut right before the game,
I tell you, we're going to have to bring something back. I know we're making this a lengthy podcast, but look, it's been a while. We haven't talked to you guys
in a while.
So we're just going to chat for a while here. So if y'all want to drop out, now's the time, because we're just going to start chatting. I'll tell you this. Remember when the Rams and 49ers played the championship game, and that was one of the cooler rivalries in the NFL, though we don't really have rivalries anymore. And one of the best things we've ever done was check Banana Republic stock.
Way up. So, yeah. I mean, listen, right now, if you had to guess how many flat brim hats Kyle Shanahan has in his closet right now, what would you say the number is?
37.
Yeah, probably. How many hoodies does he have? Like those really slim cut
42.
Hoodies?
Yeah, slim cut. Absolutely slim cut. You don't see any baggy, like, I'm laying around the house in my University of Wisconsin sweatshirt that's 2 sizes too big. And not only that, I guarantee you, he doesn't have any of that like Everlast light gray, like YMCA gray. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
Every sweatshirt the one that was never created.
The one, if you sweat at all, it just shows up so, heavy and dark.
The one that Rocky wore, like, you
get
that
the nice
color
sweat neckline, right?
No. If Kyle Shanahan has a gray hoodie, it's like called Bone.
Gosh, is that Bone?
Yes. And it's got a darker
charcoal.
zipper.
No, it's charcoal is what it is.
Or he's got charcoal. Absolutely. Steel. He's got steel. And it's got a sweet little SF. I'll tell you what, man. Coach of the year so far, like coaches that done great jobs. I think Sean McVay is at the top of the list. Can you give a 1-3 team a nod? And do you know who I'm thinking of?
Brian Dable?
No, come on. A NFC
1-3 team.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go back to my list to see the 1-3 teams. Hold on, let's go back. Robert Saleh?
No, NFC, bro.
I think you said AFC.
NFC.
You want to give it to Jonathan Gannon?
Why not?
Because DeMeco deserves it.
DeMeco's working with more, man.
His entire offensive line is out.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing, by the way? When a quarterback's entire offensive line is out and he could still throw for 300 and something yards. And
Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
No, D'Amico, he's turned that team around.
I don't
They've
think
got
I don't think
back-to-back wins.
Daniel Jones's offensive line wasn't out. They were just out to lunch. They weren't
Well, I
like
mean,
actually
it's the
out.
difference.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so far I know it's only for. Go ahead. Go ahead. You
Real
first.
quick, of these teams, we're looking at teams 24-17 on this list.
Yeah.
If I told you 3 teams on
What
here
if
make
I
the
told
playoffs,
you?
what if I told you 3 teams on this list make the playoffs? Who would you say?
Texans winning the South. You may not like this one, but the Commanders.
Okay.
The Giants look so bad right now, and the NFC's so up for grabs. Why couldn't Washington do it? Like, who is Washington certifiably worse than in terms of a wild card race? Dallas, right? Because Dallas is probably going to be a wild card unless
Probably.
it's Philly.
Yeah.
Unless it's Philly. So I would go Washington. I go Houston, and then it gets really, really tricky. But don't you kind of have to give Minnesota a nod because they clearly have the best quarterback by a country mile on this list? Because leaving obviously Houston out of that because we need more of a catalog there.
Yeah, but I'm also looking at the Titans. I think they've got the best coach in the list, and they're 2-2. They know how to play in their division. I don't think their division is very good. Why couldn't they grind their way to 9-8 and sneak into the playoffs as that 7th seed?
Since we're just chewing the fat here, and again, everybody, Marcus and I haven't done this a long time. Usually our pods now are like 28 minutes. We're just going to talk, and so I want to cover everything. And I'm always fascinated with your Hall of Fame takes, and I want to use one of the teams on this.
Okay.
So Derrick Henry threw another touchdown pass this week. He's got a few now. Remember the jump pass he threw against Green Bay on I think that was Thursday night. If Derrick Henry has a 1,500-yard year, another really big year, but he doesn't finish among the all-time leading rushers because he had to split carries early in his career with DeMarco Murray. He's had some injury problems, and we know running backs don't play 12 years, most of them anymore, unless you're Frank Gore, Adrian Peterson. Is Derrick Henry a Hall of Fame player to you, even if he doesn't have like 10 or 11,000 yards rushing?
Well, he's only 1,400 yards away from 10,000 yards rushing, which I feel like he could get to, right?
Unless he gets hurt next year, because he's not going to get 1,400 the rest of this year.
No. But he's probably going to get 1,200, right?
12,000.
And then I think he's going to stick around even after his Titan days.
Oh, okay.
You know what
So
I
you
mean?
mean
Like
1,200 this year? He's going to get 1,200 this year.
Yeah, he
Okay.
just he's right now he's currently 1,400 yards away from being at 10,000. I think he'll eventually get there, and having he's got 83 touchdowns right now. I think excuse me, 87 total touchdowns. Is he going to get to 100 total touchdowns? Probably. If he gets to 100 total touchdowns and 10,000 rushing yards, how could you not put him in?
Because there's a bunch of guys that have those numbers that can't even get a sniff.
But
Can't
I
even
think
get a sniff.
in this era, though, and I think that's the difference. Like we just haven't seen running backs in this era put up those kind of numbers outside of Adrian Peterson and LaShawn McCoy. I think he's got a really good shot.
And that's what I'm driving at here is I'm sick of the compiling talk. Like if you are clearly the best or the top 2 or 3 during your era and you're unique. I mean, Derrick Henry is unique. He's a unicorn in today's NFL. And you had a 2,000-yard year and you were on pace for another one before you got hurt. Plus, like your second best season is 1,700 something yards. I mean, you've got to be considered for the Hall of Fame. Why do you have to play for 12 years rushing for 1,014 yards a year to be a Hall of Famer? Wouldn't you rather have a guy that played 8 years but had a couple 1,700-yard seasons, a 1,500-yard season, a 2,000-yard season?
Yes. The question I thought you were going to ask me, because you led with Derrick Henry throwing a touchdown, is who is the best non-quarterback passer of all time? We've had some good ones. Did you know that Walter Payton had 8 career passing touchdowns? I'm sure you're familiar that LaDainian Tomlinson had 7. Our guy Bronco Nagurski had 7.
Don't forget Marcus
Allen had 6.
Yep.
So who would you say?
Well, Walter Payton threw 2 in one game in a game in 1983 against the Saints, and one of them was an absolute dime. And then at the end of the 84 championship game, when they were getting blown out and they had injuries at quarterback, Walter Payton had to play quarterback. Walter Payton might be the greatest all-around football player ever. But, Mohamed Sanu could throw the ball. That would be one guy for sure for me. And you're frozen right now, which is good because I don't really want to hear your take anyway. And then since you're frozen, I'm going to name a guy that you clearly can't stand because he's a Steeler, but Antoine Randall could throw the ball. There's no doubt about that. The throw he had to Hines Ward in the Super Bowl, I mean, that Super Bowl was awful, admittedly, like completely awful, but that was a dime from Randall to Hines Ward. I was talking about Antoine Randall while you were frozen.
Yep, I heard
so because I know you can't stand Antoine Randall or that Steelers win in that Super Bowl, but the first guy I mentioned when you froze was Mohamed Sanu. Has had some nice throws.
His 80-yard touchdown to AJ Green on that first play, right?
Yeah. Can I give you one near and dear to your heart?
Sure. But I got one more for you. Go ahead.
A lefty. How about Richie Anderson, former fullback for the Jets and the Cowboys?
That's a really good one. Can I cheat a little bit and go back to the 1920s and 1930s?
Sure.
Do you know a guy by the name? Do you know a guy by the name of Benny Friedman?
Of course, I know Benny Friedman. Come
Get
on,
this
Giants.
66 passing touchdowns in his career on 167 attempts.
Yeah. Benny Friedman is he's the grandfather of all quarterbacks. He is the first guy that really made throwing a weapon. And when Benny Friedman threw those touchdowns, man, the ball was a balloon. They narrowed it down, I believe, in the late 30s. Mid to late 30s. Benny Friedman wasn't throwing the same ball in the early 30s that Sammy Ball was throwing in the 40s. I could tell you that. And there was a big push to get him in the Hall of Fame years ago because he was kind of the precursor to all this. So yeah, of course I know Benny Friedman. Okay. Come on, don't bring me that stuff. I'm going to go
61 touchdowns as a running back.
Green Bay Packers, but you have to remember running back then was the quarterback. I know you're going to mention Arnie Herber next. I know you are.
No, I'm good. We're good.
Yeah. So a couple things though on the Hall of Fame chat, just real quick. Frank Gifford threw a touchdown pass in a playoff game against the Cleveland Browns. It was a jump throw. Yeah. He threw a jump throw in the snow in 1958. That was the game that the Giants won to go play the Colts, I believe, in the 58 championship game. But when you talk Hall of Fame and you think about some of the guys that are playing right now, and I was thinking about Derrick Henry, it got me thinking about Lamar Jackson a little bit too. What are you going to do with Lamar Jackson's career when all is said and done? Because he had some years that were he's got more years ahead of him, but he's had some years to me that were kind of transcendent. And his 2019 MVP season, statistically, I don't think gets talked about enough.
Yeah, the fact that he already has an MVP, and I believe the Ravens have the second best winning percentage in the NFL when he starts, only behind the Chiefs. So what's probably going to get him in the Hall of Fame, regardless if he wins the Super Bowl or not. I mean, the numbers that he's going to put up by the time his career is over are going to be ridiculous.
As I'm kind of cheating here because I'm looking at your top 8 teams, and obviously the quarterbacks stick out. Josh Allen sticks out. Patrick Mahomes really sticks out. And then, of course, we just talked about Lamar Jackson. We'll wait and see kind of what Jalen Hurts does with his career if Dak improves any, and then Tua. But if you think about some of the guys just in your top 8 teams here, you got a bunch of Hall of Fame players. Look, Micah has only been in the league. This is his 3rd year, but boy, it looks like he's headed that way for sure.
Yeah.
Chris Jones to me is a Hall of Fame player. I don't know if you'd go Fletcher Cox for the Eagles, but he's certainly borderline kind of guy. Nick Bosa for the 49ers.
Jason
Fred
Kelce.
Warner. Jason Kelce, Eagles center. Travis Kelce, Chiefs tight end. Just looking at this list, Tyreek Hill for the Dolphins.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you look at this.
Zach Martin.
Zach Martin, that's another one. Tyron Smith. It's kind of crazy. But going back to Lamar Jackson.
Von Miller.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Going back to Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, I wonder if this is the one team kind of in your top 8 here that maybe we're not giving enough respect. I know you've got him at 8. but we thought the Bengals would win the division. I thought the Browns were a certifiable playoff team, but if the Ravens emerge, even with all these injuries, out of the AFC North, with Kansas City's offense sputtering the way it does, and with, let's be honest, Josh Allen can still turn the ball over. You turn the ball over against the Ravens, you're going to lose, because the Ravens will play good enough defense. They've got a quarterback that can convert, and they're going to make their kicks. They're not going to give you any freebies.
Last thing before we go, the Ravens play the Steelers this Sunday, which we'll talk about on tomorrow's show. But Lamar Jackson has not played well against Pittsburgh in his career. Only one career win against the Steelers, and that came when they were playing Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges back in 2019.
Yeah.
Not a lot of success. Yeah. You're going to play at Pittsburgh this week against maybe not Kenny Pickett, who's banged up. Even if he does play, he's severely compromised. No Cam Hayward, no Pat Freiermuth, no Deontay Johnson, an offense that's struggling. If the Ravens are going to be an actual contender this year, you've got to win this game. You've got to be able to win against a divisional rival like this.
Yeah.
This is what we said against Cleveland in week 2. Like,
yep,
you're better than Pittsburgh. Go out and win that game, play a clean game, and get
they
to
didn't.
2-0. And they didn't. They had 4 turnovers, and they lost that game on offense. Lamar needs to have a good game here. And if they do, you could talk me into them being inside the top 5. You really could.
I'm looking at Buffalo, Philadelphia. That would be a really good Super Bowl. But Duck Hodges, didn't he have to play a Sunday night game against the Chargers in LA, win over half the stadium were Pittsburgh fans?
Yes.
And it felt like you were watching a Steelers home game.
Yes. And they were,
I think they were still playing at the StubHub.
Yeah,
back then, or whatever they called it, the Alliance Insurance.
25,000 stadiums, which was ridiculous. But
25,000 seat stadium. I always, I never ended up going to a game there, but I always wanted to, just to see what it was like to watch an NFL game.
Go to a high school game, you'll figure it out.
Thanks for that. Really good stuff. All right, we're gonna get out of here, but hope you enjoyed this extremely meandering episode of just talking ball. But we do this every once in a great while, and we will be much more efficient and much more on it with our picks podcast. And I'm going to have some good over-unders, I think. I'm going to have some good picks. When do you want to do it? You want to do it tomorrow, or do you want to do it Thursday?
Let's do it tomorrow. Let's bang it out tomorrow.
All right. Well, there you go, everybody. We're going to do our picks tomorrow, and I missed you guys. Hope everybody's doing well out there. Hope you all get a chance to take a vacation like I did. And again, congratulations to Marcus for adding to the Mosher family. Pretty good stuff. By the way, you can hear more about Marcus's personal life if you listen to the Dynasty podcast, because they talk about him a lot on that on Locked On.
And make sure you go to Elliot's Twitter profile. Have a link for all that vodka that he was talking about. So
yeah, right. Also, check out Locked On Cowboys, where you can hear more pomp and circumstance about the Cowboys starting 3-1 and it really, really not mattering at all.
Nope.
And then, and also get his really, really positive takes on the Raiders for USA Today Raiders Wire. I don't even want to know what you've written about them here lately. It's probably not good. But if you really want to be depressed, you can always go to @Marcus_Mosher, where there will be a Rolando McClain highlight reel waiting for you. So everybody make sure to go do that. I'm Harrison NFL on Twitter. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.